All right, in example 2, it says finding side lengths of special right triangles. Do not pick a calculator up if your triangle is a special right triangle, which I'm talking about the 30, 60, 90 or a 45, 45, 90 triangle. You should have exact values. That means no decimal answers. All right, on this triangle, I have the degree measure of 30 degrees. I have 30 degrees. My hypotenuse is 74, and my opposite side is x. That's what I'm looking for. So when you're trying to find a certain side length or an angle measure, you got to look at what's going on in that triangle. So I have a 30-degree angle measure, and I have a hypotenuse, and I have the opposite side. So which trig function talks about hypotenuse and opposite? Well, that's from over here. Which one? I've got an opposite and a hypotenuse. Which ones of these talk about opposite and hypotenuse? The sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So I know that the sine of 30 degrees, because I'm saying sine of 30 degrees because I know I have an opposite side and a hypotenuse. So I can use my trig ratio for the sine value. So sine of 30 degrees is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 30 degrees equals x over 74. Now, what do you know about the sine of 30 degrees? We just filled out a chart dealing with the sine of 30 degrees. Well, if you'll look back at your table, or again, this is something that you have to know. You've got to learn these trig values. The sine of 30 is equivalent to 1/2. So I'm going to replace the sine of 30 with 1/2. I have 1/2 equals x over 74. X over 74, and then you can cross multiply. 1 times 74 is 74 equals 2 divided by 2 times x is 2x divided by 2, and you get x equals 74 divided by 2 is 37. Now, in class, I talked about the ratio of this short side to the hypotenuse is 1 to 2. That means that if I know my shorter side length, my hypotenuse is twice that amount. Or if I know my hypotenuse, my shorter side is half of that amount. Well, if you'll look in this triangle, the hypotenuse is 74. And remember, this is in the ratio of 1, 2, and root 3. Well, if I know this is 74 and this hypotenuse is twice as much as this shorter side, I can take half of 74 and I get 37. So if you'll keep that in your mind, that would have been some work that I didn't have to go through. All right, check it out. Example 2. I have a 45-degree measure, so I have a 45-degree angle. So look at your opposite hypotenuse adjacent. Which of those two am I talking about? I know this 20 is a hypotenuse, and this x value is opposite that 45. So again, I have an opposite and a hypotenuse. So I can do the sine of 45 degrees equals x over 20. Replace the sine of 45 with what you know. The sine of 45 is root 2 over 2 equals x over 20. I set up a proportion. Now I'm going to cross multiply and solve for x. Root 2 times 20 is 20 root 2 equals 2 times x is 2x, divided by 2, and I get x equals 20 root 2 divided by 2. This is not a 2, this is a 2 under this radical, so this 2 cannot simplify with this. This is not a 2, this is a 1 point something. But this 2 will reduce out with this 20, and I have 10 root 2, so x is equal to 10 root 2. Now, example 3, you have an application problem. Now, you may have to pick a calculator up. If your angle measures are 30, 45, or 60, don't pick a calculator up. But if you'll notice in this next problem, we're going to have to pick our calculator up because we do not know the exact value of 15.1 degrees. All right, in a water skiing competition, a jump ramp has the measures shown. To the nearest foot, what is the height h above water that a skier leaves the ramp? So let's look what we have here labeled. We know that ramp is 19 feet long. We're wanting to know the height. And if you'll notice, they have labeled here that this angle measure right here is 15.1 degrees. So what are we talking about here? We've got to set up a trig ratio. What do we have? We have the hypotenuse, and again, we have the opposite. So I know I can set up an equation that says the sine of 15.1 degrees equals the height over 19. So go solve this equation. Now, I don't know what the sine of 15.1 is. Okay? I'm going to put this over 1. So now I have a proportion, and I'm going to cross multiply and solve for h. Sine of 15.1 degrees times 19. 19 times the sine of 15.1 degrees equals h. Now you're going to pick up your trusty little calculator. All right, so I'm trying to get where you can see my screen here. All right, put in your calculator, 19 times the sine of 15.1 degrees equals 4.95 is the height. Now, it says to the nearest foot, what is the height h above the water? So the height, when you have a word problem, answer the question in a sentence. So the height the skier leaves above water, something, you just write it however you can. The height from the water, maybe. What does it say? What is the height h above water that a skier leaves the ramp? The height h above the water is about 5 feet. All right, next problem. A skateboard ramp will have a height of 12 inches, and the angle between the ramp and the ground will be 17 degrees. To the nearest inch, what will be the length of the ramp? All right, so my angle measure is 17, the height is 12 inches, and I want to know the length L of the ramp. So again, I'm talking about the hypotenuse and the opposite, so we're really liking sine in this lesson, aren't we? Sine of 70 degrees equals 12 over L. Now notice how this one is set up. This one is set up just a little bit different than this first one. When I cross multiply, I mean, we're setting it up the same way, but look how it works when we work it out. I have L times the sine of 17 equals 12. Well, I want to solve for L, so what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to divide by 17. Divide both sides by the sine of 17. Don't divide by 17, divide by the sine of 17. Those 17 sines of 17 reduce out, and we have the length is, now again, pick your calculator up, do 12 divided by, put sine in parentheses, so divided by the sine of 17 equals 41.044, and that's inches. So 44.044 inches. And this says to the nearest inch, what will the length of the ramp be? So the ramp will be, it says to the nearest inch, so 41 inches. The ramp will be about 41 inches.